Welcome back to USA News Hub, your trusted source for breaking stories, sports highlights, and the biggest updates from around the world. Stay tuned, because we bring you the news that matters, fast and fresh. Baseball action continues across the majors, and here's a look at today's matchups with dates and times. September 28th. At 1:07 a.m., Toronto Blue Jays vs. Tampa Bay Rays. On the mound, Yesevich for Toronto, Boyle for Tampa Bay. At 2:05 a.m., San Francisco Giants vs. Colorado Rockies. Verlander against Freeland. Also at 2:05, Washington Nationals vs. Chicago White Sox. Irvin vs. Burke. At 2:10 a.m., Boston Red Sox vs. Detroit Tigers. Early vs. Montero. At the same time, Miami Marlins take on the New York Mets. Perez against Holmes. At 4:05 a.m., Philadelphia Phillies vs. Minnesota Twins. Suarez vs. Abel. At 5:15 a.m., Atlanta Braves vs. Pittsburgh Pirates. Strider against Chandler. Also at 5:15, Cleveland Guardians face the Texas Rangers. Cantillo gets the start. And Milwaukee Brewers vs. Cincinnati Reds. Gasser against Abbott. At 6:40 a.m., San Diego Padres vs. Arizona Diamondbacks. King vs. Rodriguez. At 7:38 a.m., Los Angeles Angels vs. Houston Astros. Dana against Bluebaugh. At 7:40 a.m., Seattle Mariners vs. Los Angeles Dodgers. Gilbert vs. Glasnow. At 8:05 a.m., Oakland Athletics vs. Kansas City Royals. Morales against Wacha. September 29th. At 1:05 a.m., Athletics vs. Royals, Red Sox vs. Tigers, Yankees vs. Orioles, Phillies vs. Twins, Giants vs. Rockies, and Nationals vs. White Sox. At 1:07 a.m., Angels vs. Astros, Blue Jays vs. Rays. At 1:10 a.m., Guardians vs. Rangers, Marlins vs. Mets, Brewers vs. Reds, Padres vs. Diamondbacks, Mariners vs. Dodgers. At 1:15 a.m., Braves vs. Pirates. At 1:20 a.m., Chicago Cubs vs. St. Louis Cardinals. And that's your MLB schedule and matchups for September 28th and 29th, 2025. Stay tuned for scores, highlights, and playoff race drama. Thank you for watching USA News Hub. If you enjoyed this update, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you never miss our latest news stories.